Yes, that's a cake. But first, I would like to talk about hummus. A delicious dish with a strong consensus on how you should eat it. When I was 12, I found out by accident from the shocked faces of my classmates that by eating hummus with cheese, I broke an unwritten law. Actually, I still find hummus especially delicious with salty cheese. Should I expect the same reaction these days, even if hummus is now a global fare and never before the demand for it has been so high around the globe? Shouldn't this notion that there are only specific ways to eat it melt away? This episode left a significant impression on me. On one hand, I was amused by it. On the other hand, I wondered why my classmates did not accept me and my habits. Was it because I didn't speak their language that well? Or because I was a really good student and they saw me as a threat? Or maybe they just could not read my personality. It sounds silly now retelling it, but there was a wall I had built around myself, an imaginary but very thick one. I was 12 years old back then. My parents moved to Israel at the end of the summer. And 2 weeks later, I started school in 7th grade. I realized my starting point was far behind my classmates. I faced many difficulties, like many other kids in similar situations too. But the most challenging one was to overcome cultural barriers. I was expected by my classmates to integrate into their culture. In order for my imaginary wall to disappear, I had to challenge my perception of belonging. As a teenager, I often wondered, why do people seek belonging? Is it a fear of being an outsider? Or is it just human nature, not being alone? Now, I work in international cooperation, and I'm surrounded not by classmates, but by colleagues from all over the world, from many different countries. However, I still ask myself similar questions. Do foreigners in an international working environment feel at home? Or do they still have to overcome cultural barriers? Is there actually a thing that can be called international working environment, one where those barriers would have disappeared? Or is it just an administrative fiction and the barriers are there, different, depending on who you are and where you are, but always present? I am both Russian and Israeli, now living in Germany. Where do I belong? Culturally speaking, I do not fit as a Russian, as an Israeli. My mindset is neither of those. When I visit my relatives in Moscow, I feel like a foreigner and I'm treated as one. In Israel, I am called a Russian. Now, I live in Germany, but I'm a recent arrival, so I'm just an odd bird. I can call myself an international person, working in a very international environment, like a microcosmos which supports diversity, promotes the power of we, and strengthens the advantages of different cultures and backgrounds. I thought, with my experience and background, integration into this microcosmos would come naturally. However, the international working environment I'm experiencing seems to be different. Most of the people speak very good English. Everyone is very nice, welcoming, and open. That's the stuff of which international working environments are made. Walking into it should have been a piece of cake. But unlike this delicious one, I would describe my integration as a piece of so-so cake. It felt at times like a flashback to my 12-year-old self. I found cultural barriers. I found people keeping their distance, not knowing what to expect from you. Sometimes they even interpreted my intentions incorrectly. So I started wondering whether I was too direct, too closed off, too self-confident, too unreachable, too serious. It took some time for my colleagues to realize that even though when I'm focused on my daily tasks, I can look unapproachable and distant, I am actually the opposite of cold and distant. Could it be that I, unintentionally, put myself behind that imaginary wall again, the one I had already climbed once? As a teenager, I had learned that if you are not local, you can be invisible to some people. Others will act like you are a threat to them. So back then, I had taken two main decisions: to act and be visible, and to turn my weaknesses into strengths. I did it by being good at what I was doing and by showing and building up confidence. The moment you become a strong competitor, even in just one aspect, you are not invisible anymore. You start to attract interest from people around you. You might even start to become a threat. But they will respect you. But the most important thing in overcoming the wall is being the ones who make the first step. It is within our social nature to integrate. And what I've come to realize is that when we walk into any environment, be it an international or not, it's on us to be the icebreakers. We shouldn't expect it from those who are already there. It's on us to present ourselves, to explain where we are coming from, to show our colleagues who we are. The easiest way towards understanding is also the simplest one. It's through the stomach. Bring a cake, possibly homemade. If it looks unusual, explain what ingredients you put into it. Make it your unofficial introduction. Bring other foods or sweets from your country, from your culture, and share them with your colleagues. This opens up the possibility to talk about all the bricks that, if not addressed, may build that wall. Talk about the culture you're coming from, the mentality, the perspectives on life. Make fun of your perceived weirdness, perceived by them. With some of your colleagues, it will be easier. With others, less so. But they will appreciate your motives, and cultural barriers will start to melt away. Cultural diversity is our strength as a society. Cultural barriers are our weakness. It is within our capabilities to make sure that no walls are needed, not even imaginary ones. Thank you.